Yeah. Look at this room. Woo-woo! Beautiful, beautiful. Good evening, GHIAA. Wait, I want to try that again. Good evening, GHIAA. That's more like it. So, my name is Luania Johnson Martin, and I'm a member of the New Antioch Baptist Church in Hartford, New Antioch. As well as a leader on the GHIAA strategic team, along with...
My name is Rabbi Deborah Cantor, and I am the spiritual, that's my son, and I am the spiritual leader of B'nai Tikva Shalom in Bloomfield, as well as a leader on the GHIAA strategy team.
Yeah. So I am here tonight because I believe that the world needs our work and our witness. Don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Luania, the world sure does need us, more than ever it seems. I don't know about you, but for me, global events and national politics can leave me feeling pretty hopeless, pretty powerless, and especially now with an incoming administration making plans that plant fear in the hearts of so many vulnerable communities, especially now with rights rolling back, war proliferating, and climate crisis accelerating.
Yes, Deb, yes. So especially now, the world needs our work and our witness. And friends, we need each other too. When I feel powerless and hopeless, I turn to the place where I can act, which is here in my region, here in my state. I turn to a place where I can form meaningful relationships, which is here in my congregation, here in my local community.
Yep. And our local community, Greater Hartford, needs our work and our witness too. Tonight, right now, there are people in our communities who will go to bed hungry. There are families about to be evicted from their apartments.
Ooh, right. There are people sleeping in their cars or on the street. And I know that we've all witnessed this, am I right? There are people who are sick and can't afford to go to the doctor.
Yep. There are kids who can't get the help they need in school. And there are elders, lots of them, who can't get the help they need to stay at home.
Wow. There are Jews and Muslims and people of all other religions who don't feel safe showing who they are in public anymore.
There are black and brown folks, I don't need to tell you, who are targeted by both individual acts of violence and systemic patterns of oppression.
But, however, tonight, right now, unfortunately, there are children of God who are also suffering. Some of us here tonight are suffering. But tonight, right now, I have hope. Because tonight, right now, there are hundreds upon hundreds of people of faith who believe that the world does not have to stay the way that it is. Yeah. The world does not have to stay this way.
Tonight, right now, there are hundreds and hundreds of people of faith who have chosen to spend the Thursday night before Thanksgiving using our collective voice and our relational power to call for something better.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Deb. Absolutely. So we are here tonight to say our communities deserve better. Yes. Yeah, y'all can rap, y'all can clap, y'all can clap. Yes, yes, yes. Our kin and the human family deserves better. God envisions something better for us all. God envisions a world where every belly is filled, every body is safe, every person goes to sleep at night in a safe, warm, dignified home.
And God envisions a world where leaders prioritize the flourishing of every single person, especially those who have been made vulnerable by oppression and poverty and bigotry and violence.
All right, Deb, you better speak it. I'm sorry, but this woman gives me chills when she speaks sometimes. So God envisions a world where justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. And God could build that world all alone, but GHIAA, don't you think it goes a lot quicker when we join in? Woo! Yes, yes.
GHIAA friends, are you ready to join with God in the work of Tikkun Olam, the healing of this broken world?
Yeah! Yeah! All right, guys, so let's get to it. What we're going to do now is we're going to begin with our roll call. So let's get started.
Shepherd of the Hills from Simsbury is showing up strong with 11 leaders.
St. Monica's Episcopal Church is proud to be here tonight with 18 strong leaders. Yay!
Trinity Episcopal Hartford is showing up strong with 10 leaders.
The Universalist Church of West Hartford is proud to be showing up strong with 23 leaders.
St. Patrick St. Anthony Church and the Franciscan Center for Urban Ministry in Hartford is showing up with 25 strong leaders.
Church of Christ Congregational in Newington is showing up strong with 11 leaders.
The Unitarian Society of Hartford exceeded its goal and is showing up with 34 strong leaders.
I'm trying to give you a heads up before I move. Keep clapping.
My name is Cynthia Perry Robinson from the Faith Seventh-day Adventist Church in Hartford, Connecticut, and we are showing up strong with 45 strong leaders.
The Farmington Valley Jewish Congregation in Simsbury exceeded our goal, and we showed up with 16 leaders.
Emmanuel Congregational Church in Hartford is here tonight with 33 leaders.
Faith Congregational Church in Hartford is showing up strong with 20 delighted leaders.
Panay Orr, West Hartford, Connecticut, is showing up strong. A third of a congregation is here, 10 leaders.
North United Methodist Church in Hartford is showing up strong with 15 leaders.
I'm Darrell Urban. I'm from Grace Lutheran Church here in Hartford, and we have exceeded our goal. We are here with 32.
Unitarian Universalist Society East of Manchester is showing up tonight with 65 beloved leaders.
First Church West Hartford is proud to be here with 10 leaders.
Temple Sinai is proud to be here with 20 energized leaders, exceeding our goal.
The small but mighty Flag Road United Church of Christ from West Hartford is here tonight with 5 grateful leaders.
Center Church in Hartford is showing up strong with 45 leaders.
Congregation Beth Israel is showing up strong with 70 powerful leaders.
Small but mighty, the Hartford Quakers, Hartford Friends Meeting is here with 23 delighted people to be here.
I'm Andy Paller of B'nai Tikva Shalom in Bloomfield, proud to be here renewing our support for GIAA's work with 15 leaders.
Bethel Temple from West Hartford is excited to be here with 40 leaders. That's this one. And the Jewish Community Relations Council is excited to be here with 5 leaders.
Kehillat Haverim of Greater Hartford is excited to be here with 2 committed leaders.
Ministerio Nueva Creación, the small mighty church, is here with 10 leaders. Strong!
Asylum Hill Congregational Church in Hartford is here with 81.5 leaders. Woohoo!
Emmanuel Lutheran Church Hartford is proud to be here with 13 leaders.
First Church of Christ UCC in Simsbury is proud to be here with 36 energized leaders.
Concordia Lutheran Church of Manchester, and we exceeded our goal by bringing 14 leaders.
The Collaborative Center for Justice of Hartford is proud to be here with 30 leaders.
Trinity Lutheran Church in Vernon is proud to be here with 4 leaders.
Christ the King Catholic Parish, Weathersfield, is proud to be here with 5 members.
First Presbyterian Church of Hartford is happy to be here with 15 leaders.
The First Church of Christ Congregational in Glastonbury is proud to be here with 20 energetic and enthusiastic leaders.
Cynthia Brody here from New Antioch Baptist Church here in Hartford, and we exceeded our limit. We're here with 23 strong leaders.
Good evening, y'all. Riverfront Family Church in Hartford is here with an excited 5 leaders.
The Congregational Church of South Glastonbury is very proud to be here with 10 leaders.
Peace and love from Westminster Presbyterian Church in West Hartford. We're thrilled to be here with 20 leaders.
Good night, blessed people of God. I am Joyce Winter Brown, a supporter and member of Urban Hope Refuge Church, and we came with a strong 22 positive, faithful, optimistic leaders.
51 members, donors, and allies are in the house from the Center for Leadership and Justice.
Woo!
Woo, woo. Woo! Wow. Wow. GHIAA is in the house. Yes. I don't know about you, but I can feel the despair lifting and the power building already. Woo-woo! Yeah. Tonight, we're also excited to welcome leaders from several congregations that are building relationship with GHIAA, including Granby Congregational Church, Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Manchester, Metropolitan AME, and Shiloh Baptist in Hartford. Yeah! Between our 52 GHIAA member institutions and our broad network of partners and guests, I am thrilled to announce our turnout total tonight. What is it? What is it? Drum roll. Woo! Friends, we are here tonight with 1,063 people. Woo! Yeah. Yeah. How many? Say it again. Say it again. How many? Yeah. How many? 1,063. We were like trying to aim for like maybe, I don't know, 800. Like that. Whoa. Yeah. 1,063. People who are showing up together to love our neighbors and fight for justice. Yes. Yes. Woo woo. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I officially call our assembly to order. If you're ready to do the public business of our people and our faith, GHIAA, let me hear you put your hands together. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I know, I'm so excited. I know. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. It is my honor and pleasure to invite my friend Alita Jones of the Hartford monthly meeting of the Religious Society of Friends for a moment of prayer and reflection coming out of her beautiful Quaker tradition. And after that, we will hear from the wonderful Reverend Mia Douglas, Chair of the Board of Directors of the Center for Leadership and Justice.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. As Rabbi Deb Cantor said, my name is Alita Jones. I'm a member of the Hartford Friends Meeting, otherwise known as Quakers. As Quakers, sometimes, either at the beginning of a worship service or when we are reflecting in prayer individually during the week, we ask a query. A query is a question that doesn't have a specific answer, but it gets us thinking about and reflecting about how we are living our lives. So tonight, I would like to ask you a query, and then we will spend a minute or so in silent worship reflecting on the query. I'll read the query twice. Do I use my time, energy, resources, gifts, and material possessions in the service of God's love? Do I use my time, energy, resources, gifts, and material possessions in the service of God's love? Let us take some time for silent worship. Amen, and thank you.
Thank you, Elita. Good evening, everyone. I am the Reverend Mia Douglas, and I serve as chair of the Board of Directors of the Center for Leadership and Justice, or CLJ. Along with many of my colleagues from the board, I am proud to be here tonight in support of GHIAA. CLJ is an organization in the North End of Hartford that has spent the past 173 years advancing social, racial, and economic justice in our city, our region, and our state. GHIAA is one of the key ways CLJ moves our mission forward. In addition, we also invest in neighborhood organizing around issues of public safety, development, quality of life, municipal services, and more. On behalf of the CLJ board, I have the delight of recognizing some of the partners and guests who are with us for tonight's Power Summit. We are joined this evening by representatives from Connect, Connecticut for All. Yeah, you can scream for yourselves, cheer yourselves on. Connecticut Tenants Union, Connecticut Voices for Children, the Naugatuck Valley Project, SEIU 1199, among many others. We also celebrate the presence of clergy and leaders from congregations in southeastern Connecticut who journeyed here on a bus tonight, as well as folks from other parts of the state who are exploring the organizing process. We are grateful for the support and presence of some of CLJ's major funders, including the Graustein Memorial Fund, Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, Melville Charitable Trust, and the J. Walton Bissell Foundation. Let's give our funders a hand. We are joined tonight by a number of state legislators from whom we'll have a chance to hear a little bit later this evening, as well as Hartford Mayor Arunan Arulapalam. Yes, I practiced. As you know, GHIAA has worked for several years on a series of campaigns fighting environmental racism around the former Mirror incinerator site in Hartford. In addition, many GHIAA leaders will remember the Irving Street residents who have been organizing for public safety and investment in the community. We are pleased that the redevelopment of the long vacant city-owned land at the corner of Irving Street and Albany Avenue is now moving forward. Yes, yes. Thank you, Mayor. Many of our Irving Street leaders are here with us tonight. I invite them now to stand so we can recognize them. We are indeed grateful for the mayor's leadership and partnership on both the Mira and the 614 Albany Avenue. I now invite him to share a few words.
Well, thank you, Mia. Welcome to the great city of Hartford. It is great to be with you. I'm both the mayor of the city and also, importantly, in this GHIAA assembly, the first gentleman of Center Church. And Hartford is home to this entire region. You are all from Greater Hartford, a metro of 1.2 million people, and we are your city. This is your city center, and that means all of the great things that you love about Hartford. It also means we provide a lot of services to all of your residents. We provide 90% of the homeless shelter beds for 1.2 million people. We provide methadone clinics and emergency rooms. And for many decades, Hartford literally took your trash. It came to a trash to energy plant in the south end of Hartford, and toxins that spewed out of that plant ended up in the lungs of young black and brown kids growing up in our city. And when that was finally closed down, millions, tens of millions of dollars were left over in Mira, and it was supposed to be used to remediate that property. And instead, that Mira organization continued to spend down millions of dollars while giving themselves raises. And would have continued to if it weren't for the advocacy of GHIAA getting behind our state delegation getting behind Speaker Ritter and Senator Fonfara and our state delegation to force the shutdown of the Mira Dissolution Authority. And as Senator Fonfara said, we're going to continue to keep our eyes on them because we need to make sure that those dollars are spent in the place where they've done harm. So I want to say thank you to GHIAA for your advocacy to shut down the MDA, and thank you to the Irving Street residents. You know, it is so important in this day and age that we have organizers taking elected officials and holding our feet to the fire. Because what we've learned is that when elected officials are uncomfortable with holding their feet to the fire, when they don't listen to their community members, our communities start to burn down. And I want to say thank you to the Irving Street residents for working with us to advocate, to redevelop that plot at Irving and Albany, and to bring investment into a community that needed it. The greatest deterrent to crime in our communities is investment. Investment of dollars, investment of potential in housing and in people. And we'll continue to work with you. Thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Arulapalam. We certainly appreciate your support. Friends, we are also joined by leaders from several of our denominational partners, and I'd like to welcome them to the mic for a brief word of support.
Hello, I'm Reverend Evan Carvel-Zemer. I'm the regional lead for the New England region of the Unitarian Universalist Association. On behalf of the 233 congregations in our region, I join with you in ongoing commitment to justice.
My name is Barry White. No, excuse me. My name is Reverend Darrell Goodwin. I serve as the Executive England Conference of the United Church of Christ. And, 'cause And on behalf of our over 600 congregations, I stand in support of the faithful work of GHIAA.
Hello, everyone. I am Bishop Jeffrey Mello. I serve as the Bishop Diocesan for the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. And on behalf of the 153 communities and worshiping communities across the diocese, I commend GHIAA for the real changes you have made and I know you will continue to make across Connecticut.
I am Bishop Nathan Pipo. I serve as the Bishop of the New England Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. On behalf of the 167 congregations and worshiping communities of the New England Synod, I bless the relational power of this gathered GHIAA assembly.
Thank you all. Friends, when we set the date for this assembly so many months ago, we did not know where we would be nationally at this time. We knew then, and we know now, that regardless of who would be elected, our work is our work, and we are called to move it forward. At the same time, we can't ignore the shifting national landscape in which we find ourselves. And so we have invited one more guest to share a few words this evening, and that is our State Attorney General, William Tong.
Hi, it's Attorney General William Tong. Hi, it's Attorney General William Tong. Thank you to the Greater Hartford Interfaith Action Alliance for having me as part of your program. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I'm glad to be able to address you by video. So I've gotten a lot of calls from people across the state and many people like you who are wondering, what do we do now? Many of us weren't expecting what happened on Election Day. Maybe I and many others, we were too confident that the nation would choose a different course. We were expecting it to be in a different place, but here we are. And in many ways, you know, when I became Attorney General in 2019, we were in the middle of President Trump 1.0, and now we're back again with President Trump 2.0. And people are scared. I'm scared too. It's disorienting, and I still think that even now, more than a week later, not a lot of answers. We're still working through it and trying to understand what happened and where we go from here. Let me tell you where we and where I go from here, at least to start. Number one, state attorneys general, and mostly, almost exclusively, Democratic attorneys general are closely aligned. We've been preparing for this moment for more than a year. All of our staffs, all of our teams, we meet together all the time. We've seen this movie before, as I said, in Trump 1.0, and so we're ready. We're ready, not just ready in that like we're spiritually ready or we're physically or mentally ready. We're ready in that we're prepared. And so know that we've been thinking about it. Nobody is going to get caught flat-footed. We don't know exactly how they're going to come at us and where and in what order, but we're ready for this fight, and we're going to fight as hard as we possibly can. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, too, about how we're going to respond as a state, and how Connecticut is going to respond, and how our state government is going to respond. Well, let me just be very clear. The Office of the Attorney General is going to do what it has always done. It's going to protect and defend the rights and the lives of the people and the families of this state. As your Attorney General, I want to make it absolutely clear, it is the policy of this state to protect and defend and honor and respect the reproductive rights of all people and women and patients, and to protect and honor and defend their right to reproductive health care and to seek an abortion if they need one, period, full stop. As your Attorney General, I want to make it clear that it is the policy of the state of Connecticut to respect and honor and defend and protect the rights and the lives of people in our immigrant community. People like, frankly, my parents. When they talk about denaturalizing American citizens, they're talking about my parents. When they're talking about denying birthright citizenship to the American-born children of immigrant non-citizens, when they talk about anchor babies, they're talking about me. So this is very personal for all of us, and it is the policy of the state of Connecticut to stand with our immigrant neighbors and friends. It is the policy of the state of Connecticut to honor and respect and protect and defend the rights of the LGBTQ plus community, period, full stop. And it is the policy of the state of Connecticut to respect and honor and defend and protect people of all faiths here in Connecticut. And we will never stop doing that. So know that going forward, there's a lot of uncertainty. And as I said before, people are rightly concerned. But I can say for myself, and I'm sure for the governor and many other people in state government, we are ready for this fight. We've been in this fight before. In many ways, we've never left this fight, and we're going to fight harder than ever. Thank you.
who know that the ones who suffer the most when our democratic process fails are the same ones that our faith traditions call us to hold the closest: the poor, the marginalized, and the oppressed.
So we invite you, our elected officials, to be bold with us, not as a political challenge, but as an opportunity for all of us to fulfill the beautiful work of democracy, the faithful work of fighting for justice.
Now tonight, legislators, we have an issue slate to present to you, and we do so knowing that aside from this issue slate, we also may have to go on defense in the coming year and after to protect our immigrant siblings, our LGBTQ kin, people who rely on various forms of federal support, and others.
Yes, Deb. Yes, 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 yes. So, we are ready to defend against what may come. And at the same time, we believe that our state, our legislators, and all of us have enough capacity not only to prevent moving backward, but to keep on moving forward. We cannot get so overwhelmed by the threat of our national dysfunction that we lose track of local work where we have real power to act. Yes, 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 yes. GHIAA has been working toward launching these campaigns for almost a year. We are deeply convinced that these issues require our action, and that when we win on them, we will make our state more just, more equitable, more livable for all our residents, especially for those who are poor and experiencing various forms of oppression. House Speaker Matt Ritter was unable to be here in person this evening, but he met with GHIAA staff earlier this month and shared a video encouraging our upcoming issue work.
Hi, I'm Matt Ritter, state representative from Hartford and proudly serving as a Speaker of the House here in the state of Connecticut. I'm sorry I cannot be with you here tonight. Hi, I'm Matt Ritter, state representative from Hartford and proudly serving as a Speaker of the House here in the state of Connecticut. I'm sorry I cannot be with you here tonight. I'm getting an award from the Charter Oak Cultural Center, and I promised Donna Berman that I would be there many months ago, so my apologies. Two issues I want to talk about, I know you're going to talk about tonight. One is the fiscal guardrails here in the state of Connecticut. I want everybody to know that in my mind, they've done some really wonderful things. We should be proud as a state to have a $4 billion budget reserve fund. When you don't have a rainy day fund in government and a bad economic downturn comes, you make bad cuts, make tough choices. And this will help us when that inevitably does happen in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm very glad that we're prepaying our pension liabilities, paying our pension liabilities. State employees worked hard for 30 years and they deserve to know their pension is going to be there when they retire. Having said that, we can still do both. We can still protect for the future, put money away, and also make the necessary investments that we have to in education, mental health services. And so making the minor modifications to the guardrails makes sense. And I think you'll see from my end and from the Senate's end, we will be working on that, providing compromises, things where we think we can meet halfway, perhaps with the executive branch, to say, look, if you made these minor modifications, it would free up X amount of dollars so that we could spend, but it also would not get rid of them entirely. So I think that balanced approach is what I'm hoping will happen here in 2025, but it's not going to be an easy discussion. There are some people who would prefer to leave them unchanged, so your advocacy is going to be important on that issue. The second thing is about housing, and I want to just give all the credit in the world to House Majority Leader Jason Rojas, who has been really a true leader in every sense of the word on housing issues, and it's going to be another big issue here in 2025 in Connecticut. We need to do more. We don't have enough units. We're 95,000 units short of giving people quality, affordable housing in the state of Connecticut. And we need to build it everywhere. We can't just build it in the same places. We need towns to work with us to provide housing, particularly around transit-oriented development, which makes so much sense for people. But we have to give families more options. We have to make sure that tenants are protected and treated fairly. We need to make sure that landlords just can't run roughshod over tenants whenever they want to. And so we have protections in law for some people, and we probably have to look at bulking up protections for other people as well. So it's an important 2025 year. I appreciate all of you being here and your advocacy here tonight, and I look forward to working with you next year. Thanks.
The issues that topped the charts, this is not going to surprise you. One of the issues that topped the charts in almost all of our House meetings was the lack of affordable housing in Connecticut. Stories about the challenge of being able to obtain affordable housing were told from our richest suburbs to our poorest neighborhoods. Listen, housing is not a commodity. Housing is a human right. And unfortunately, we have a lot of humans in this state who lack access to safe and secure housing, and there is no excuse. We're in Connecticut. There is no excuse. GHIAA proposes 2 strategies tonight to contribute to this fight, which is a big one. The first is to expand tenant protections statewide. And the second is to disrupt barriers to deeply affordable housing at the local level. But first, to ground this work theologically, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the Reverend Isaac Lawson, a member I love this guy. A member of GHIAA's strategy team, and he will speak from his Christian tradition.
Thank you, Deb. It was a warm, sunny spring day. I was in elementary school walking home up that big hill towards our apartment complex with neighborhood children, including a classmate and her little sister. As we reached the bend, we saw the signs of what we would learn was an eviction. The belongings were put not only outside of the apartment building, but outside of the apartment complex on the main road. People going by would rummage through the belongings, taking what they wanted. As we got closer to the top of that hill, we saw furniture, but also dolls and little girls' clothing. With shock on her face, my classmate grabbed her little sister's hand and hurried to her apartment. That was the last time that I saw her or her little sister. It was their belongings that she recognized. They were being evicted along with their mother. As a child, I was traumatized. I worried that one day I would get to the top of that hill and see my family's belongings, my Batman blanket, my favorite teddy bear, or my toys. As a child, that apartment wasn't just a temporary dwelling place. It was my home. Growing up in government-subsidized housing, I learned to fear housing insecurity at a very young age. And what was true in D.C. then is true in Connecticut now, too. When the church that I served in 2019 opens its chapel for homeless families to sleep during the cold months, the youngest occupant was 1 week old. The baby's parents, siblings carried the baby and their other children and their meager belongings in trash bags from church to church, night to night, until Hartford fixed its shelter system. Beloved, in what religion is this okay? Soon us Christians will celebrate Advent. We will do all kinds of cute pageants and put up beautiful nativity scenes, somewhat sanitized from the reality that at the center is a mother giving birth to a child with nowhere to lay her baby's head but in a manger, in a feeding trench for animals. And now, right here in Connecticut, mothers are giving birth or trying to raise their children without stable housing or a home to lay their heads. Beloved, it is time that we put our power, our love, and self-discipline into organized action that ensures that all families and children have a stable place to call home. Amen. I would now like to introduce Heather Johnson, a GHIAA leader from Shepherd of the Hills Lutheran Church, to share her personal impact story.
Good evening, GHIAA. I've been living on my own as a renter for 20 years. I currently live in an apartment in Simsbury. My rent when I moved there in 2016 was $850. Before the pandemic hit, it was increased modestly, usually around 3%. When the world started getting back on its feet after the pandemic in 2021, my rent and the rent of my neighbors went up approximately 15%. And the last 3 years, it's been about a 10% increase. My new lease for 2024-2025 is $1,250. That's approximately a 47% increase over the span of 8 years. During that time, I've had several things happen in my apartment. Mold started growing on the bathroom ceiling. They treated it with bleach, but parts of my ceiling have chipped away due to the water damage. I've had one zone of my heat not work for the last 2 years, even though I've asked on more than one occasion for them to look at it. Last winter, my window started getting frost on the inside. Some of you may be asking, why don't you say something to them, Heather? The reason is simple. I'm scared, and so are some of my neighbors. I'm afraid of higher rents if they fix things that need to be done, or getting evicted because I'm applying pressure. I'm aware that my rent is lower than many other places, so the idea of having to move someplace else with even higher rent is terrifying. Every year I look for places I can cut in my budget. I've eliminated streaming, minimized groceries, lowered the heat. I'm running out of places to cut. I consider myself lucky working a good job with decent pay, but my disabled neighbor is on a fixed income. The neighbor above me has to split her rent between 2 paychecks, incurring an additional late fee of $40 each time she does this. And the last neighbor in my section of apartments has multiple people living together so they can afford the rent. In Connecticut, we should be able to have affordable housing for all people everywhere. We should be able to request repairs without the fear of being asked to leave. I'm here to fight for affordable housing, not just for me and my neighbors, but for everyone in this state. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. Did you know that in Connecticut, tenants can be evicted for no reason at all? Even if you pay your rent on time, abide by the terms of your lease, and do everything right. If your lease is ending or you are a month to month, A landlord can simply decide that they don't want you to live there anymore and serve you with a notice to quit or file an eviction. GHIAA thanks our allies from the Connecticut Tenants Unit for leading this fight. We are proud to join them in calling for existing protections to be expanded to cover all renters. Because no one should be unjustly forced from their homes. To present our asks to our legislators, I introduce my strategy team colleague, the Reverend Tracy Johnson Russell. There you are.
Good evening. You're all smiling at me, so that's good. I'm glad you're not afraid. You can't hear me? Oh. Give me 1 minute to set up. Legislators, I know you all know what's coming here because you were briefed thoroughly beforehand in prep meetings with constituents and GHIAA staff. So there will be absolutely no surprises, no games of gotcha. I will ask you a question, and we ask that you share your name and your response. Now, as a pastor, I understand what it's like when your job is always to have something to say. And we look forward to opportunities to continue the conversation with you in the months to come. But for tonight, we ask that you limit yourselves to just your name and a simple yes or no. You like that?
Easy enough? Easy enough?
Okay.
Okay.
Legislators, please rise. As you have heard, expanding tenant protections is one critical piece of the fight for housing affordability and access in our state. Will you support Just Cause eviction protections in the 2025 legislative session?
Representative Joshua Hall, the 7th District in Hartford, yes.
Woo!
State Senator John Fonfera, yes.
Representative James Jimmy Sanchez of Hartford, 6th District, and West Hartford Elmwood, yes.
State Representative Jillian Gilchrist, West Hartford, yes.
Matt Plord, representing State Senator Matt Lesser, yes.
Senator Saud Anwar, 3rd Senate District, East Hartford, South Windsor, Ellington, and East Windsor, yes.
All right.
State Senator Douglas McCory, representing the great city of Hartford, the beautiful town of Bloomfield, and the lovely community of Windsor. 2nd Senatorial District, absolutely.
State Representative Miriam Khan, representing Windsor, Hartford, and South Windsor, yes.
State Senator Derek Slapp, West Hartford, Farmington, Burlington, and Bloomfield, yes.
All right. Thank you all, and please be seated. We will now hear about GHIAA's second housing affordability strategy.
Hello, my name is Ellen Thompson. I'm a member of Temple Sinai of Newington, and Thank you. You're welcome. And a member of GHIAA's housing team. I live in Granby, not a town known for a lot of affordable housing. With 52 member institutions whose participants live across our entire region, GHIAA represents people in over 50 towns in the greater Hartford area. And we are committed to achieving affordable housing in all of them. One strategy is to develop housing action teams in individual towns where we have advocates ready to join the fight. A GHIAA Housing Action Team, or HAT team, where you see many hats here, will involve a team of advocates from a particular town or neighboring towns who commit to getting involved in addressing the issue of affordable housing in their town of residence. HAT members will receive specialized, intensive training and organizing by GHIAA's professional staff, as well as specific technical assistance training from housing experts in the field based on the issues and topics that come up in their towns. Where there are existing organizing efforts, GHIAA will come alongside and lend our support. Where there is a vacuum and deep resistance, we will organize. We are not taking our eye off statewide reform. That needs to happen also, no question. But we know this fight has to happen on several different fronts. And this strategy of working in our individual towns will both win changes locally and build our power base for wider change in the future. We already have HAT leaders ready to go in 7 towns. We are ready for this fight, and we hope you will join us.
Thank you, HAT leaders. As you take on this leadership role, do you pledge to fight for truly affordable housing, to combat racism and classism in your communities, to build a base of relational power, and to work expansively with all who will join you? If so, please say, "We do."
We do.
And GHIAA leaders, hearing these pledges from our HAT leaders, will you offer them your support? Do you pledge to have these leaders' backs, to show up when they call on you, and to bring this fight to home into your towns and neighborhoods? If so, please say, "We do."
We do.
In addition to pledging your support in voice and prayer, we ask you to make it specific now by scanning the QR code on the screen or in your program, and by putting your information into that form so that we can connect you to HAT leaders in your own town or to help you launch one. And while you do that, I'll turn it back over to our musicians.
Let's give it up again for our band, everyone. Aren't they great? So let's continue this program. In our house meetings earlier this year, people spoke about child care, elder care, disability services, health care, mental health, addiction, education, special education, and so many more systems that are supposed to meet human needs in this state, but are falling short. If it were just one or two systems, we could identify an issue campaign to address it. But we found ourselves asking, what's the root cause of so many systems being inadequate here? And that question led us to examine the set of state budget policies known as the fiscal guardrails. To teach us more about this issue, I introduce my strategy team colleague, the Reverend Josh Pollock.
Thank you, Luania. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm the Reverend Josh Pollock. I'm the minister at the Unitarian Universalist Society East in Manchester, and a proud member of the GHIAA strategy team. And I confess, I didn't get the memo about the t-shirt. I do have one. So just for people who are still wondering about Unitarian Universalism, UUs, as we say, do not gather our congregations around a central theology or creedal statement or confession of faith. We gather around our commonly held principles and values. And I want you to know that our long-standing first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and our long-standing second principle, justice, equity, and compassion and human relations, and our newly articulated core values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and gratitude, all of which emerge from the wells of a deep, abiding, and liberating love. All of it calls us to love our neighbors, especially those neighbors who are in need in some way. But more than that, our principles and our values call us to act in solidarity with our neighbors, to advocate, strategize, and organize with our neighbors to change the unjust structures that created those needs in the first place. You with me? So friends, Connecticut's fiscal guardrails, which from here on out I'm calling Connecticut's fiscal roadblocks, are creating crushing need in our state. Tonight, as people of faith, called by principles and values, called by our ancestors, called by sacred mysteries, called by a mighty, loving God, tonight GHIAA enters the struggle to restructure the roadblocks and invest fully in our communities. So I invite you to imagine our social infrastructure as a game of Jenga. I don't know, some of y'all might not be able to see this. It's a game of Jenga. Every block, tightly stacked, is necessary to hold the structure together. There's a block for mental health and addiction services, a block for teachers, for educational cost sharing, for paraeducators. There's a block for community colleges, the state college and university system, and for UConn. There are blocks for housing subsidies, for Husky for immigrants, for nursing home workers, for home health care workers, for health care for people with disabilities. There are blocks for nonprofits. There are blocks for municipalities. Social infrastructure ensures that no one in the community falls between the cracks, whether they need ongoing support or they face a sudden crisis. How are we doing over there? The blocks are supposed to stay in. No block should be pulled from the tower. Connecticut has ample financial resources. Headlines over and over again speak of record surpluses and our top-notch credit rating. As residents, as taxpayers, as consumers of public goods and services, we have every right to expect a fully funded and growing social infrastructure. Yet, over and over again, somehow there isn't enough funding for critical state services. Every legislative session, it seems, the co-chairs of the Appropriations Committee, bless their souls, have to say to hundreds of advocates, including us, there's no money. How can this be? Since 2017, Connecticut's finances have been defined by the fiscal roadblocks. There are a series of statutes that control spending. Perhaps the most polite way I can put it, probably not quite, well, in the polite way that Speaker Ritter put it, they were created in a time of crisis as emergency measures to improve Connecticut's fiscal health. They filled the rainy day fund, paid down longstanding pension debt, reduced the overall debt burden, and improved Connecticut's credit rating. These are good things. They are important, and they have come at an incredible cost. With the roadblocks in place, 21% of the state's incoming revenue is captured as surplus. It is diverted from the budget. It cannot be spent. 21% is not a little bit extra. It is 1/5 of available financial resources. Where does it go? It goes first to the Rainy Day Fund, as Speaker Ritter mentioned, which very quickly reached its legal limit, over $4 billion. Next, it's used to pay down old pension debt, which has been accumulated since the 1930s. And in the last 7 years, Connecticut has made $8 billion in extra debt payments beyond what is mandatory. So it's $8 billion poured into legacy debt. In the meantime, over at the Appropriations Committee, no disrespect to the chairs whose hands are tied, there's no money. Some call this fiscal responsibility. We call it systemic disinvestment. Others say it creates fiscal stability. We say no. No, 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 not when the lives of so many Connecticut residents are now increasingly unstable. I'm going to pause, and we're going to see a video. We're going to hear from a few of these Connecticut residents.
So I'm Jessica Salvador. I'm the director of Bloomfield's Preschool and Child Care Center. Overall, our families are struggling just with the everyday expenses. A lot of our families are part of our state-funded program, so there is a subsidy that they do qualify for, which helps, but they're still struggling with, providing food and diapers and formula and all that stuff that they need for just to survive and to live.
My name is Krister Estrada Perez. I am the executive director of the Student Loan Fund, and we are a grassroots nonprofit organization that has been focusing around student debt cancellation. It could be really hard because often people think about student debt as a number. I have $50,000, I have $30,000. But what people don't recognize is the emotional toll that it actually takes on a human being. My very first one-on-one with this borrower from Connecticut, she talked about suicidal ideation and how student debt was really hard for her to talk about, how logging into her account and dashboard were really hard because she recognized that it felt insurmountable and that she could never pay it off. So what was she supposed to do?
My name is Rosemary Clark, and I'm a home care worker for quite a long time, for the past 15 years, and I enjoy doing it. It is hard because I'm doing 2 jobs, and because of doing that, I can't get time to spend with my family. My family's in Georgia. I cannot afford to take vacation going there. I have to be working in the morning, in the evening, and it's just not paying off. We just keep working. So it is very hard. I cannot help by, say, financially help my family because I'm not working nothing. It's just like I'm giving my labor for nothing. So they're struggling, I'm struggling, so it's just struggling.
So speaking as a mother and a director, having the state-funded spaces here in our school definitely helps with the financial hardship we've been under.
When I think about my student debt cancellation, I'm like, I can maybe retire. I can probably put away enough aside.
If they could invest in us, in home care, would be very better. Feel much happy. At least we'd have a pension, can save aside for it.
We could give funds for them to further their education, to get more professional development, to really be those quality teachers that we want to have teaching our children.
So as simple as buying a house, having retirement funds, having a safety net of savings in case something happens. Those are all things that we will be able to do.
It would change our life entirely.
So childcare, home care, higher education, these are all critical components of our state's social infrastructure, which has been systemically underfunded because the roadblocks divert so much money into extra payments for old debt at the expense of people like Jess and Krister and Rosie and so many more. For many years, services and programs historically provided by the state have been outsourced to nonprofits who are asked to do more with less. Mental health and addiction resources, youth services, elder care, support for adults with disabilities, all the systems we heard about in our House meetings. What happens when those already tight budgets are cut even further? What happens when funding doesn't keep pace? Yeah, turn to your neighbor and say, that's what happens. Friends, we are rationing in a time of prosperity. The fiscal roadblocks solve a problem we're no longer facing, and in doing so, they block future progress. We haven't continued sheltering in place and stockpiling toilet paper like we did during COVID because that moment of crisis has passed. It's time to stop underfunding essential services. It's time to reform and restructure the fiscal roadblocks. And know this, we will not have fiscal stability if we fail to invest in communities and people. And if we neglect to invest now, we are creating a lost generation. That is, young people raised during a time when making extra payments to Wall Street investors matters more than fulfilling our responsibility to our neighbors. The needs of Connecticut residents must take priority. Our social infrastructure must take priority. Now, the really good news is GHIAA is not alone in this struggle. And one of the leaders statewide is a fabulous coalition called Connecticut for All. And I am so honored and so happy for so many reasons I'm not going to get into to invite to the podium the Connecticut for All Executive Director Norma Martinez-Hosang and Organizing Director Constanza Segovia.
We're so excited to be here for so many reasons, and it's so good to see this full house because we're going to do it together. And here's Constanza.
Hey everybody. Thank you, Reverend Pollack. It's so powerful for GHIAA and Connecticut for All to come together for Connecticut families, and it's great to be on this stage tonight. My name is Constanza Segovia. I'm a resident of Hartford. I'm a parent of Hartford Public Schools. I'm a member of Hartford Deportation Defense, and I'm the organizing director of the Connecticut for All Coalition. Connecticut for All is a coalition of 60-plus labor, community, nonprofit advocacy, and faith organizations representing hundreds of thousands of Connecticut residents. Since 2023, when the guardrails were recertified at the beginning of session, locking us in for another 5 years, we have been learning to what extent these policies are impeding our ability to win all of our campaigns for justice and equity
and we have been alerting the public on the need for us to come together to modify them. So it's important that we're clear. Any modifications to the guardrails should prioritize equity to address generational poverty and racism. A key piece of this is to provide relief to the lowest income earners who pay the highest percentage of their income in taxes by asking higher earners to pay their fair share. Two, invest in working people to activate our economy. Center and prioritize Black, brown, and white working class families. That's what grows our economy. Three, reject corporatization of government. We need funding. We need funding so our public services can thrive and excel. Privatization, consolidation, and outsourcing are not real solutions. They just create more problems. And four, restore democracy and transparency. Include public hearings, allowing for input from those who would be the most impacted by their changes. Make the process accountable to voters and their elected representatives rather than Wall Street investors. And finally and importantly, any modifications to these guardrails need to free up enough money to match the level of need.
You're still smiling. It's that time again. Thank you, Constanza and Norma. Thank you very much. Legislators, please stand. So here is our ask for you. Do you acknowledge that the current fiscal guardrails are withholding too much money from social infrastructure? And will you work with GHIAA and our allies to reform them? Yes or no? Yes.
Once again, Joshua Hall, Hartford 7th District, I fully support the concept of restructuring the fiscal guardrails.
As the author of some of the guardrails, I support actions that will result in the outcomes that were on the board and raising the revenue necessary to achieve the needs of the state of Connecticut. We can do that.
Yes, sir.
We can do that. It will be, as the speaker said, a challenge, but we can do that, and I will work to achieve that.
Yes? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
State Representative James Jimmy Sanchez, 6th District, Hartford and West Hartford, Elmwood, yes and yes.
Thank you.
Jillian Gilchrist, West Hartford, yes and yes.
Matt Plord on behalf of Senator Matt Lesser, representing Cromwell, Weathersfield, Rocky Hill, Middletown, and my beloved Newington, yes and yes.
Senator Saud Anwar, you know what I represent, East Hartford, South Windsor, Ellington, East Windsor, 3rd Senate District. It's raining, and its rainy day fund needs to be used for that. Yes and yes.
Thank you.
Senator Douglas McCory, representing the great city of Hartford, the beautiful town of Windsor, and the beautiful community of Bloomfield, yes and yes.
Representative Miriam Khan, yes and yes.
State Senator Derek Slapp, proud son of a Unitarian Universalist minister, yes and yes.
All right. Thank you all. Please be seated. I'm sorry. I was so excited, I thought I was done. No, okay. All right, for this one, I'm going to ask you to sign this pledge that I've put here. Our GHIAA strategy team has endorsed the Connecticut for All principles, and GHIAA will be signing on. Our legislators have also received a full text of the principles for review prior to tonight's assembly. So legislators, will you join the 112 plus member institutions of GHIAA and Connecticut for All together in committing to these principles? If you commit to uphold these values with us, please come to the podium and sign. Thank you. Yes.
Go to the next page.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you all.
Let's thank those legislators again. We now have it in writing. We're going to keep that document. Our final issue for tonight, before I get there, we know that budgets are not just about numbers. Budgets are moral documents. And we look forward to working together to ensure that Connecticut's budget reflects our shared values. And now our final issue for tonight is the painful but important topic of combating racial and religious hate. In our many, many House meetings, we heard so many stories about anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim bigotry and racism, and the harms they inflict on us, both individually and collectively. Given that GHIAA is intentional and explicit in our multiracial and multi-religious identity, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that we are all doing the necessary internal work to be in right relationship with one another across these lines of difference. To speak first on behalf of this working group, I introduce my strategy team colleague, my friend, Rabbi Andy Flegel of Congregation Beth Israel.
Last October, when a day of violence against the Jewish community was called for worldwide, those of us who send our kids to school at Jewish institutions were left to agonize over whether or not to keep our kids home from school that day. Do we acquiesce to terror when there is little threat of any actual violence being carried out? Or do we power through and stick to routine despite the primal fears living just below the surface? Like a mom, I smiled and pretended everything was fine as I dropped my 3-year-old daughter off at preschool. I gave her an extra squeeze with tears in my eyes, equal parts scared and furious that this is the world she will inherit. Next, I parted with my baby, leaving him in a different daycare, also housed in a Jewish institution, my own synagogue. I went about my morning until the synagogue received a bomb threat over email. It was quickly deemed uncredible, and after a thorough security sweep in coordination with the West Hartford Police, we were able to return to the sacred work of running a synagogue. But the daycare, an independent institution following their own protocol as they of course needed to, required them to evacuate all the kids from the school. So I rushed across the street alongside other panicked parents and caregivers to collect my 5-month-old baby from the small room in the church that became his safe haven, from the crib he had been placed in with 3 other babies to urgently and efficiently roll them there. It should not be this way. Not just for me and my family, not just for the Jewish community, but for any of us. Now, let me tell you, it is so hard to stand here as a rabbi with so little time in the public sphere to talk about Jewishness and the Jewish experience, and to begin with a story of fear. We are so much more than the fears instilled by those who hate us. We are resilient and hope-filled and joyful and driven to do the work of justice. But all of us here, we're friends. And friends have to be honest with each other. In order to really know the totality of me, you have to also know my pain. So here we are, committing to see one another as we truly are, including the pain we carry in this world that is inflicted by anti-Semitism, by anti-Muslim bigotry, and by racism. Just a couple of weeks ago, in the Jewish Torah reading cycle, we read the first part of Hagar's story. After running away from Sarah's mistreatment, she is alone in the wilderness, desperate and not sure how she will survive on her own. She finds herself in the wilderness without any material resources or sources of support. And it is in this moment of despair that an angel, a messenger of God, appears and assures Hagar that her life will get better from here. If she returns to the home of Sarah and Abraham for now, she will eventually raise the child who will father another great and numerous nation. As we read this story, we wish that God would wave a magic wand and make all of her pain disappear, build her a house and a comfortable life right there in the wilderness, anything but having to go back to the abuse she's endured. And yet, shockingly, Hagar does not protest and complain of the unfairness of it all. Instead, she breathes a sigh of relief and gives God a brand new name, El Roi, the one who sees me. It is this experience of being seen, of being witnessed in her suffering, that gives Hagar the courage to continue on, to do what she must to get through to the other side of these challenges. So I pray that through the work of learning about each other's painful truths, the realities of anti-Semitism, the realities of anti-Muslim bigotry, the realities of racism, that we will be fortified to keep moving forward in spite of the pain, and that some of that pain will be diminished in knowing that our friends and neighbors have witnessed it. I pray that this experience will allow us to be seen for the totality of who we are, because when we recognize the suffering of our neighbor, when we build the skills to become each other's advocates, then we can truly and honestly and authentically live in joy and hope with a shared sense of purpose all together. Next, we will hear from my friend and colleague, Ida Mansour, who is traveling tonight, but is here with us in video and in spirit.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom alechem, may God's peace be with you all. My name is Ida Mansour, and I am a member of the Muslim Coalition of Connecticut and the Islamic Association of Greater Hartford. I also work at the Hartford International University for Religion and Peace. And our peace-building students have been studying GHIAA and have met with GHIAA leaders, learning about processes as they study theory of change. Over the past few months, members of GHIAA have been meeting to discuss the issues of racism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Muslim bigotry and bias. In our Holy Scripture, the Quran, we are advised, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of the one God, the most gracious, the most merciful. O humanity, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and made you into communities and tribes so that you may come to know one another, not despise one another. Truly the most honored of you in the sight of God is the one who is the best in conduct. And God has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. There has been much misinformation and disinformation about Islam and Muslims. The Muslim community has been stereotyped, dehumanized, and defamed, sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes openly and in more overt ways, by our media, movies, and hate groups. This has an enormous impact on our children and our families. We need to learn how to recognize anti-Muslim bigotry, anti-Semitism, and racism, and call it out when we see it. We need to learn more about one another and go outside of our comfort zones to work together for justice and peace. The more we learn about one another, the less accepting we are to injustice, hatred, intolerance, and war. Humanizing one another, connecting in creative ways, having the curiosity and openness to learn from each other is crucial to us living peaceful lives. I pray that we can have respectful conversations of understanding and healing. Thank you.
Thank you to my colleagues Andy and Ada. I am the Reverend Canon D. Littlepage, and I am the Canon for Advocacy, Racial Justice, and Reconciliation for the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. I also serve on the GHIAA strategy team, as well as with our Combating Racial and Religious Hate team. The stories that led us to this work were stories about fear, isolation, and trauma. There were stories about feeling invisible and unsafe, disconnected, and not cared for. There were also stories about verbal and relational harms, sometimes unintentional, but still painful, no matter whether they were rooted in ignorance or in malice. Now, we know that there are many identities around which people are marginalized and under attack, especially in the current political climate, and that many of those intersecting identities are represented among us. All of them matter deeply. Indeed, as a Black, queer, non-binary person, I will not separate or rank the various facets of my identity. And my lived experience over and over in this world is that before someone knows my pronouns or the details of my marriage, they see the color of my skin. So for this season of our work, for this chapter of our work, we are focusing on combating racism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Muslim bigotry, and anti-Muslim bigotry. To respond to these experiences of isolation and harm, our team is curating a set of offerings for training, learning, leadership development, relationship building, and engagement. The primary opportunity we are crafting will be a 4-part series that will take place during winter to spring of 2025, tentatively titled Deepening Understanding, Broadening Solidarity. It will include opportunities for learning about microaggressions and prejudicial tropes, about intergenerational trauma and how it impacts our various communities and identities. It will also include opportunities for self-reflection and exploring our personal and family stories, as well as times to hear from panels of GHIAA leaders and build relationship through the core of what we do, one-to-one individual meetings. The series will also include practical skill building as we listen to one another, share our stories, and practice disrupting harm when it occurs. Now, we are very clear that a 4-part series won't come close to addressing everything that needs to be addressed. We will also be offering opportunities to go deeper, specific trainings about anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim bigotry, and racism, as well as lectures and panels and opportunities to build relationship and understanding while engaging in service together. More information about all of this will be forthcoming soon. And we know that that will not be enough. And yet, it is what we are going to commit to for this season. We believe that this work is in itself the work of justice, and also that it will continue to strengthen the relational network that is the foundation of GHIAA's action and power.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend D. Our ask on this issue is for all of you gathered here, GHIAA. It's for all of us, because overcoming the entrenched segregation and oppression of our society is an all hands on deck kind of work. Amen? GHIAA, will you commit to participate in the work of combating racial and religious hate, of deepening understanding and broadening solidarity? If so, please shout it out nice and loud. We will. Give yourselves a hand of applause. And guess what? Just like before, I'm going to ask you to scan the, somebody's saying it for me. Here you are. There's a QR code up here on the screen and also one in your program. And while you do that, I'm going to turn it back over to the musicians.
All right, all right. Thank you for that. Thank you.
I just have a little technical announcement. It seems that this may be the wrong QR code, so Luania, we weren't in charge of QR
Nope,
codes,
that was
right?
not us.
No, that
Nope.
was not us.
Can't blame Deborah Luania for that one.
No, we weren't in charge of that, but I am in charge of telling you that we're going to mail you, like email you, the correct QR codes.
So be on the lookout for it, okay? Again, we apologize for that error.
Are we ready to bring this baby home?
I am so ready. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right,
Let's do it.
First of all, thank you so much to our issue team members, all the leaders who spoke tonight, our musicians, our staff, our volunteers that made this event possible. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for the work ahead. Are you? Woo! Are you ready? All right, Deb.
Now that we're at the end of our gathering tonight, or near it, I remember us gathering for the Power Summit 2 years ago, as well as all the way back to our first big assembly in 2019 for the founding of GHIAA. Math isn't my strong suit, but Tonight, as I figure it, my friends, in addition to launching critically important new campaigns, we are also celebrating GHIAA's 5th birthday.
Yay, happy birthday, GHIAA!
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. GHIAA is now officially old enough to enter kindergarten.
Yay!
Which means that we've learned a lot, and we still have learning to do.
Yes.
We've grown a lot,
Yes.
and we still have growing to do.
Yes, we do.
We still skin our knees from time to time.
Ouch, that hurts.
Oh, and we might occasionally let our tempers get away from us. But we have done a lot in these 5 years, my friends.
Yeah.
And our region and our state are meaningfully different and better because of it.
Yes, yes, Deb. Yes, yes, we are. And because of the power that we have built alongside the work of many partners and allies as well, thousands of children from low-income families, kids who were previously excluded due to immigration status, have access to health care through Husky now. In addition to that, tens of thousands of people are liberated from welfare liens that were trapping them in generational poverty. Yes, yes.
Again, because of the power we have built alongside the work of many partners and allies, $22 million has been budgeted for gun violence prevention.
Yes.
And $150 million was budgeted toward equity in our public schools.
Woo! In addition, because we've held dozens of press conferences and we've submitted hundreds of testimonies, what else, Deb?
Well, we've conducted thousands of House meetings to share the stories of what keeps us up at night. We've met one another, reaching across the lines that so often divide us, weaving tens of thousands of threads of connection that bind us into one social fabric, one united community where we know that we belong to each other and that our flourishing is interconnected.
Yes, yes, Deb. Yes. And also by having conversation by conversation, relationship by relationship, we are building the realm of God. We are building the realm of God.
My friends, we are building the power it's going to take to transform the world as it is into the world as it should be, loving our neighbors and fighting for justice.
Woo! Yeah. Okay, so Deb, I got a question for everybody, including you. I just have one question. Do you want to keep going? Woo! Do you want to keep going? One more time, do you want to keep going? You heard him.
Well, I heard it. I heard it loud and clear, and all of you did as well. You know, I came into this evening, I got to admit, a little bit down, a little bit hopeless, a little bit depressed. But that is not how I am leaving.
Woo!
Thank you all for being here tonight and in the months to come. Go in peace.
Thank you.